Reactions have continued to trail the decision of the Academic Staff Union of Universities to extend its industrial action. The union claims the rollover is to give the federal government time to resolve outstanding issues. University lecturers have been on strike for 6 months. Well, joining us now from Lagos is the National Coordinator for the Congress of University Academics, Dr. Niyi Sunmonu. He is also a senior lecturer at the Obafemi Awolowo University. We're hoping to be joined by him momentarily. But in the meantime, well, we might have to roll over to the next hour of News Night. But before we do that, okay, we do have him. Fantastic. Adeswa, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Niyi, for joining us on the news tonight. And what exactly is your position when it comes to this lingering industrial action by your colleagues?
Thank you very much. Good evening, Nigerians. We of the Congress of University Academics, CONOA, are of the opinion that there will always exist industrial issues in any workplace. Industrial actions can always be as a result of industrial issues that arise from a working place. But we're of the opinion that we must get out of this vicious circle of having an agreement, reneging on agreement, having to go on industrial action over and over. For over 40 years I've been doing this. We believe that strike action is doing more harm than good to our system. So as a union, as a budding union, we believe we can approach industrial issues via other means, other than the industrial action that will truncate our academic calendars, that will put the students out of learning, and also render academics also useless in the meantime. We want to approach industrial actions, industrial issues in a different perspective. That is not to say, I must emphasize, this is not to say that there are no problems in the universities. That, in fact, universities are towers where you have problems and problems are solved, because academics in the universities are actually thinkers. So I'm saying in essence that we have problems, yes, in the university, yes, but the way to solve the problem
if you can hear me, if you can hear me, before we talk about the other problems, you did say you do not want industrial action causes more harm than good. So how else should the Academic Staff Union of Universities approach these issues?
No, thank you very much. I would rather say that I would rather want to dwell on our perspectives of CONOA on how industrial issues should be resolved, right, other than deploying strike action. First, I will just mention a few for want of time. Not necessarily in any order. You can take advantage of the democratic dispensation to look at legislation to help deepen the interaction between the government and labor unions in the universities, for example. You can also take the advantage of industrial arbitration panel, for example, and you can also, as a final result, you can take the legal action, which in fact, at the end of the day, will make it legal, will make it binding on all parties involved to carry out whatever it is handed down by the court. But if you want to avoid going through the long route of this court, for example, for industrial arbitration panel, we want to also suggest that you can't have discussion, you can't have too much of discussion. I tell you, this current industrial action will end on a table. It is about discussion. But for this discussion to work, all the stakeholders involved must see themselves not as adversaries, but as stakeholders, as partners in progress. What we observe in CONOA is that from the time this industrial action will start, will come to a point, will be suspended, will take over again, the vicious cycle, we are of the opinion that people will come into negotiation table with the mind of meeting their adversaries, especially from the part of those who are involved, those who should do the discussion.
Right.
When you look at others as your adversaries, you are not...
Okay, well, there seems to be a trust deficit, and ASU will tell you, look, we have tried voluntary conciliation, we have, tried to discuss these things over the table, but the government continues to renege on its side of the deal. Strike is a last resort for ASU. At least that's what ASU is saying. But I also like to ask you very quickly before we wrap, this issue of IPs and UTAS, the payment platform. Where does CONOA stand on it? And have you even been part of all the negotiations with the federal government all this while?
I didn't get the other part of the question, please.
Which part? I'm talking about IPs and UTAS, the payment platform for university lecturers. What's your stand on that? Because that seems to be a major contentious issue. And I also asked if you've been part of the negotiations between federal government and ASU.
Thank you very much. Quickly, I will say that I want to look at the IPPS or payment software as generally software. Software can be, it is a code which will be used by people, which will be applied by people. Any software, whatever software, can be put to good use and can be put to bad use. But if there are problems with any software at all, and we are sincere about the problems, we can together solve the problem of any software. So the problems of IPPIS, yes, we have a short payment and what have you, but we believe that when we come together in good mind, with honesty, with sincerity, the problems can be a thing of the past. With respect to bringing on the table on negotiation, CONOA is not on the table presently, and I just want to take a guess that CONOA was formed in 2018, and immediately it was formed, by April of that year, it applied to the Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment for registration, for recognition as a trade union. We've been on that since 2018 up to this moment. The guess I'm taking is that maybe the government, because we are not yet registered as a trade union, is not bringing us onto the table. And I want to say there are two effects of this. The first effect is that this lack of registration yet is denying CONOA, who is supposed to be a critical stakeholder in the universities, because we're academics, we are lecturers, our voice. By extension, it is also denying us our fundamental human right to association, because our voice is not at the table, our contribution is not at the on the table. It is denying us of our fundamental human rights. I want to use this medium to call on the Ministry of Labor to expedite action on our registration. The second point is that we have instances of coercion, of intimidation to our members in some other universities.
Dr. Niyi,
giving us this registration will give us...
Thank you very much. I feel that's much we can take on the news tonight. The controversies never end in the education sector in Nigeria.
Dr. Niyi Sunmonu, thank you very much for joining us.